You take the product, give us a review, post it, and that's about it. And that's still kind of the baseline of it.
And I want a good show, damn it. Ready for a good show?
Doing awesome, yeah. I'm excited to talk to you, Angie. Thank you for having me.
Yes!
I've always been doing big into archery, and my dad said, hey, you guys want to start an archery store? That's how I was.
Yes, of course. Let's do this together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Show. I am your host, as usual, Andrew Maff, and today I'm joined by the amazing Kent Wilson, who's the COO of SnapPad. Kent, how you doing? You ready for a good show?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. Very excited to have you on the show. Have obviously, dug into the brand, obviously, before you and I started chatting, and love the direction. I know you guys have been around since I think it was, 2015, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, late 2015 is when we launched.
Yeah, so you've been at it for a little bit. Let's do the usual. We'll pretend that no one knows who you are. And why don't you give us a little bit about your background, tell us more about SnapPad, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so SnapPad's actually a family company. So I'm one of three brothers that are involved, my dad as well.
Oh, cool.
The funny thing is the story actually starts probably 25 years earlier than that. My dad and a partner of his at the time launched a product into the RV industry, created it, got it into market, but we're not part of the success of it. So it's still a staple in the industry. But what they did is, this was before e-commerce, so they had to raise a lot of money to get tooling done, to do a road show, get it into distributors and stores. That was really the only way to go to market back in the early 90s for them. They were kind of diluted out of their own company as a result by someone they trusted. So it was, unfortunately, the family didn't really benefit from that, aside from the experience and the connections that he made in the industry. So years later, he came back to his three sons. We're all sort of growing up, and I was working in marketing. My other brother was an SEO, and my brother, who is now the CEO, had just come out of business school. So he came back to us and said, let's give this RVing thing another try with the new sort of concept, which became our hero product, RV SnapPads, which is what the brand's named after. So it's a thing that snaps onto the bottom of jack feet, sort of like shoes. But anyways, we, kind of a garage, made it up in our garage, found a manufacturer in the U.S. who's willing to do the prototype for us, and that's how it started.
Wow. So you launched in 2015, correct?
Yeah. September 30th, I believe.
Wow. So you were 4 or 5 years in, and then you get hit with a pandemic. And now I'm going to assume that might have actually been helpful, because I know a lot of people kind of hit the road and were just living that life for a little bit. But I also know that it's not always the case, because some people were afraid to leave. Like, how did that actually end up affecting you?
Yeah, so at that point, our brand did have a lot of momentum going into 2020. We'd been growing about 100+% year over year. We'd started onboarding distributors and B2B accounts. So we were actually starting to look into supplemental manufacturing at that point, because our existing manufacturer, who took a chance on us when we started, was having trouble scaling up with us. So what happens in the pandemic is it spikes demand, but it completely kneecapped our supply. So we were about 3 weeks out from bringing on a new manufacturer. They shut down completely. Our existing manufacturer went through a series of shutdowns, because a lot of businesses did at the time. He eventually got that sort of exemption, was around certain forms of business, but he had waves of people just getting sick or not coming into work. So at the same time that was happening, we had most of our major B2B accounts placing massive POs with us. And it got to the point where we were 3 to 6 months out on most of those POs. We had to shut down marketing. We turned off direct to consumer completely. we just couldn't fulfill. I think we were 40,000
wow.
units back ordered by the start of 2021. So
Jeez.
it should have been a blessing, was a horrible curse. And what happened was the borders are shut, right? So we're looking for new manufacturing remotely. We live in Canada and we manufacture in the US. So we're trying to contact manufacturers, can't go across the border to meet with anyone, see the facilities. So it took us probably another year to get that supply chain up and running. And the funny thing is our original manufacturer went out of business in 2021, midway through. So it really, yeah. So by the start of 2022, we were kind of ready to get back at it. But it was 2 years of no cash flow, not knowing if we could ship product, people calling us and yelling at us because they didn't get their PO from 6 months ago. So it was, it should have been the biggest bump in our business, and it was the most difficult time we've been through.
Oy. But you're still here. You're still, you've clearly made it since you're on our podcast. I can't believe so many people are going to yell at me for that comment. So you made it through. What is it that kind of helped after COVID? You kind of had those issues. So what's kind of helping you on the trajectory now? So
it really helped that we created the category that we are in. So if we had been in sort of another category with established incumbents or a bunch of competition and we couldn't have fulfilled, like that probably would have sunk us completely, right? Because, your customers go somewhere else. But we're the only ones that do this. And we'd gotten enough product market fit that there was all that demand that kind of was unleashed back onto us, right? So once we were back in the business, people just kept buying the product. So that helped tremendously. Now, after the pandemic, outdoor in general and RVing specifically had a really bad time because obviously you pulled forward all this demand in a short period. Supply chains have been backed up, but demand just sort of re-plummeted back down to, below normal, but it's getting back up there now. So RVing, I think, had its worst season in 2 decades last year in 2023. We were told by one of our distributors that we were the only product in our category that grew at all. There was 10-20% lack of growth, I should say. They went backwards by that amount, most of their stuff. We grew about 12%, but we now have a robust supply chain. We're in every major distributor. We're in about 750 different dealerships in the U.S. We're starting to get into Canada. Ironically, we started in the U.S. We're moving north. But we're actually starting to see the best direct-to-consumer sales we've ever seen, like over the last month, which is noteworthy because we're a seasonal business and we're still kind of in winter mode here. So we're pretty optimistic that we can get back into that 50 to 100% growth year over year now.
Wow. So what do you think's driving all that D2C growth?
Well, it helps that we've improved a lot of our marketing the last few years. So once we came back into the game, iOS 14 had changed things. Facebook had obviously evolved. So it actually took us the last couple of years to relearn how to do the acquisition at the top of the funnel, at least for D2C. We took over our own Amazon store too. Previously, we were doing it through third-party seller thing. And our Amazon store has started to really gain momentum. The other thing is our kind of product servicing the niche that it's servicing is highly word of mouth dependent. Mm-hmm. Like you have RVers RVing, looking at what other gear other RVers have, and we're starting to, I think, just hit sort of a critical mass of people know what the product is, talking about it, telling others about it. So it seems to be just organic, natural traction on top of some improved marketing efforts.
It's always great when you get the word of mouth snowball effect and CPAs start coming down, CAC comes down, and then it's just, you start scaling it out pretty easily from there. At least it sounds easier than it is. But so the marketing approach you mentioned, you improved the side with Meta, you've taken over from the Amazon side. So you've definitely got kind of like an omni-channel approach going because you're also selling, you've got, as you said, you're in dealerships, you have your own D2C site, you're on Amazon. What's that approach from a marketing perspective? Are you letting people just shop wherever they want? Or are you directing them to certain areas? Like, how are you kind of managing that omni-channel approach?
So there's a bit of a media mix going on. So we do the Meta thing, which is our primary paid acquisition. That drives people back to our website, which is also the best educational vehicle for people. Aside from what the product does, we have to tell people what RV it will fit on, because it's like I said, it's shoes. So there's a lot of fitment that goes into it. And our website's the best place to discover that fitment, either through the tools that we have or through customer service. Yeah. So from there, we kind of hope people go and find it wherever they're most comfortable. If it's from a dealer, if it's from Amazon, if it's from our website. So, but the other thing we do is a lot of influencer outreach and seeding. That was a very early tactic that we've kind of built on. So I think we've worked with hundreds of RV influencers, a lot of them on YouTube. Yeah. And that seems to drive a lot of, brand awareness at the top of the funnel. And some of those people, come back to our website, buy from us, but I'm sure they also go to some of these other channels as well. We're looking to expand into paid YouTube down the road and maybe even television.
Mm-hmm. So the influencer side, you said primarily through seeding. So you're just sending them free stuff and posting about it. And how are you kind of managing that? Because I know it's a tough area. We do a good amount of it, but it's definitely, you run the risk of whether they're actually going to post about it and, things like that, how quality the content comes out. Like what's your approach on seeding the influencers?
Yeah, very early on, it was just that direct. You take the product, give us a review, post it, and that's about it. And that's still kind of the baseline of it. We have evolved it to have some of our best creators on retention. So once they've proven that their content works, there's a fit with us and the audience, they keep making stuff for us. We don't have too much. We've never encountered issues where we send someone something and they don't post. I'd say that's less than 10% of the time. Our product is very high AOV. It's, about $150. So it's a pretty significant give. And a lot of people seem to feel at least obligated if we're giving something that good that they'll do something about it. But the other thing is we have an NPS of 90. People really like the product. So we don't have to, most of the time we don't have to convince them once they start using it to be enthusiastic about it. It's not a, please try my soda. And even if you don't like it, post about it on TikTok, that type of thing. Most of our creators are live the lifestyle, are legitimately RVers. And once you snap our product on, I mean, it's like installing something on a vehicle. So it's definitely something that if you don't legitimately like the product or what it's going to do for your lifestyle, you're not going to use it or post about it. So luckily it's extremely rare where we do seeding and we don't get something from someone. Now it's still like herding cats, as you say. We do have someone dedicated in the team, literally doing it every day, where they follow up with people, do briefs, get the content back. Yeah. So I started the program myself when we were smaller, but we literally had to hire someone to do it now.
Yeah. And you mentioned in your background, you started in marketing, correct?
Yeah. I was in actually social media for a digital agency here in Calgary. So I started their social media department back in the day, and that was back in getting likes for the Facebook page and things like that. And it evolved into PPC management on Facebook when they were just starting to become the powerful platform that they are now.
So you've moved into more of an operational role. What's the approach on the marketing side? I know your brother's, you said he's SEO background. You've obviously got someone internal and influencer. Like what's the team like?
Yeah, my brother originally worked under me when he came in, the guy who's doing SEO. He had done some web development too. And he kind of learned under my wing all this other stuff at the time. And now he's the head of marketing. And as we've gotten bigger and we have, multiple sales channels, we've got lots of inventory to worry about. We have multiple regions. We started selling in Germany recently. We're looking at Australia. So operationally, it was just like, okay, we need someone looking after all this other stuff as well.
We don't have to get too deep into it if you don't want to, but I've got to ask, because I've worked with family before. It's it's an interesting. I don't work with family before. I don't work with family now. So let's put it that way.
Fair enough,
How do you manage that? How's that dynamic? How do you guys kind of keep things separate, or do you prefer not to?
Yeah, we don't. There's two reasons. The first one is luckily the three brothers we all have complementary skill sets, so it's more of a placing people in the machine where they belong and being comfortable there. We're a fairly close family. We grew up over time, so we have strong relationships. But the second thing is what I mentioned before, having this project be sort of a reclamation of something we lost previously. Like we have that intrinsic motivation on top of, wanting to build something for the family. It's like, well, this was kind of stolen from us in a way, 20 or 30 years ago. So there's that sort of mission behind everything, which brings everyone together.
Yeah. I understand that. What I won't harp on it. So you're thinking about getting into television, you mentioned. What's your approach there? How are you thinking of kind of getting into that? I know that tends to be a bigger kind of scarier jump for a lot of brands because it's very difficult to actually paint any kind of picture of an ROI behind it. So how are you kind of planning on attacking that? Is that going to be from like a streaming perspective where it's a little bit more measurable, or are you doing more like traditional television?
We're actually looking to bring on a vendor here pretty soon who has experience in sort of taking a digitally native brand at whatever we're at this year and taking us to the next level in terms of marketing. Mm-hmm. So they have creative chops. They've done it before. They know how to do sort of multi-channel, top of funnel brand stuff on top of the performance and direct response things that you typically see on TikTok and Meta and things. So I think it'll have to be someone external to us because we do not have any of that experience ourselves. And we're going to look for someone who can say, we see what we're doing now. We think we can do it over here, bigger and better.
Yeah. To that point, actually, so you talked about Meta and stuff and influencers. Have you ventured into the TikTok side, and any luck there if you have?
We do. Some of our influencers do have their accounts on TikTok as well as Instagram or YouTube. We do see some sales coming through it. We've put a little bit of organic stuff on there. One of the issues is our demographic is very much older, 45 plus, and especially the baby boomers who are 60 plus and retired.
Yeah.
They weren't as heavy on that channel, and I think it might be gaining ground now. So it's on the roadmap to really investigate, but we're not making 9 figures or anything at this point. So we have so much room, I think, left on the channels that we're on right now. We don't want to kind of dilute our efforts. So it's on the roadmap, but it's not a high priority.
Yeah. Because they're older, have you ventured into Microsoft ads at all?
Actually, one of the vendors we're talking about is brought up Bing with us because we haven't really done much on the Microsoft side. So that was one of their first, you should probably at least try this out.
Yeah. I would agree with it. I mean, we found for brands that have kind of an older audience, because it comes preloaded on most PCs, if they're not tech savvy and they just want to leave it as is, they're using Bing. I mean, it's not going to be what Google is, but it's we've actually seen some pretty decent numbers off of that comparative to Google, not from volume, but the returns better in some cases.
Yeah, I think that'll be one of our first tests this year, honestly.
Yeah. How are you treating Amazon? Are you guys using that as like an acquisition channel, or are you actually kind of focusing heavier on that and just using it as more an omnichannel approach?
We don't really purposely drive anyone to Amazon, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But I
don't blame you.
beats our direct to consumer store most days, quite drastically, actually. And it's been the gap has been widening for some reason. So that's actually one of the things I'm going to look into this year. Like, why does Amazon beat the pants off our Shopify store? But it's been taking it over. The reason we did it actually is because I started doing the math. We started getting these huge orders from our third party seller, and we're like, what's going on here? And then I started looking at, you got to feed 3 mouths rather than 2 when you're doing that. It's you, Amazon, and the third party. Yeah. So I just simply said, okay, well, let's take him out of it. And then we hired an agency once we got on there. So they're optimizing pages, they're doing PPC. So that's probably helping as well, because the third-party seller before was kind of doing that stuff, but not really. So it's that's another thing that's helped us get traction there.
Have you explored, because I find product lines like yours where, your AOV is 150 plus, you've got a good Amazon presence, you've still got a decent D2C presence directly on the site. Have you explored Amazon's Buy with Prime?
We have. We were going to implement it, I think a month ago or so, but there were legal complications around it being a U.S. store and us being a Canadian entity. And you have no idea how often we hit weird stuff like that. Yeah. At some point, we may have to domicile ourselves down there because there's all this weird, government policy and internal policy with bigger banks and fintech stuffs and, on Amazon. So we probably will go that way if we can resolve just the legal stuff.
Amazon and their fun rules, they never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah.
Kent, I really appreciate you being on the show. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'd love to give the opportunity to let everyone know they can find out more about you and, of course, more about SnapPad.
Yeah, so SnapPad's rvsnappad.com. If you're in the US, .ca if you're in Canada. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook pretty easily. Unfortunately, once you do that, we're going to start following you around with retargeting. But
good.
Hopefully you're an RVer and you want SnapPads. But I'm mostly on X or Twitter, which I still call it, Ken_Wilson.
Beautiful. Kent, thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone who tuned in, of course, thank you as well. Please make sure you do the usual rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff on whichever podcast platform you prefer, or head over to the ecommshow.com to check out all of our previous episodes. But as usual, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of The Ecomm Show.